Before this week's headlines vanish, the first United States XRP ETF is live with record inflows. The SEC just opened the ETF Floodgates by approving generic listing standards for crypto ETFs. On top of that, PayPal launched Bitcoin and Ethereum peer-to-peer payments. We're literally talking about millions and millions of users. Solana drew billions in institutional treasuries with a B. Algorand expanded into regulated markets. South Korea rolled out a digital yuan stablecoin, its first, and on Avalanche. This is your full recap before it dies, and I hope we can get through it all because this week has been insane. What is up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Before I get too deep into the weeds here, I will mention if you missed anything this week, this is going to be an attempt at the full story because there is so much adoption, it's almost impossible to keep up with on a day-to-day basis. We're going to be going a lot through genfinity.io. So to save you guys some time, if you don't want to hear me ramble, you can probably go on genfinity.io, which is our website here, and read the vast majority of all this. Anyways, I want to start with today, more relevant, just to keep you guys kind of in the loop before we, dive back into the weeds here. Found this article coming out of CME Group. This is literally CME Group, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, saying, having an article about diversifying crypto portfolios with XRP and Solana. How crazy is that, right? In a world of digital asset investing, XRP and Solana are the third and sixth largest cryptos by market capitalization after Bitcoin and Ethereum. Blah, 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 blah. And it talks about risk return profile. It actually talks about XRP having the highest average daily return among the four crypto currencies, and it exhibits a higher standard deviation over Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And you can go through risk and return. Introducing XRP and Solana futures to complement clients' portfolio needs. This is average daily volume in the millions since launch through September 12th, 2025. You're literally talking about hundreds of millions of dollars on a daily basis. Conclusion here from CME Group: similar to traditional asset classes like stocks and bonds, digital assets possess distinct risks and return profiles, both coin display, blah, 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 all the risks. So anyway, CME Group is a massive entity, and essentially they're talking to their clients and the users of their platforms and things like that about how and why and the risks of diversifying crypto portfolios with XRP and Solana. We saw Dogecoin and XRP ETFs launch. The first ETF, the Rex Osprey ones in the United States, launch with a record $54.7 million volume. The newly launched Ripple ETF, and I don't know why they keep saying Ripple, the XRP ETF has seen the largest day one trading volume of any ETF launch this year. Talk about a demand for crypto, right? I also found a pretty cool tokenization document out of Cakesis, and I definitely mispronounced that, but I don't care because it's a weird name. Major industry survey gauges the state of planning for digital assets across Europe. This is all about tokenization. Now, interesting statistics within here. As you can probably see, do you expect to offer a tokenized fund in the next 1 to 5 years? This is asset managers, and it says 24% say yes, definitely. 38% say yes, probably. Then you have essentially this. How would you describe the level of demand for crypto assets? High demand is a yes, or very high demand is 10%, high demand 33%, moderate demand is 42%. So like literally you're at 42, 52, 60, 70, 75, 85% basically saying moderate to high demand, which is pretty wild. Found that document pretty interesting. Also, why is American interest in crypto growing? Hint, it's banks. I would say it's probably greed, but I don't think the majority of Americans really understand what's going on. Maybe some of the, hopefully you guys that watch this channel understand what's really going on and the infrastructure that's been built. I mean, just last Monday, we were talking about the NASDAQ filing with the SEC to literally tokenize, to have a parallel tokenized version of the stock market. So it's pretty clear cut and dry that the writing is on the wall. And then last thing for today here to stay relevant with you guys, this is coming out of Grayscale. Today, we're proud to launch Grayscale CoinDesk Crypto 5 ETF. the first multi-asset crypto exchange traded product in the United States. The launch is more than just another ETP. It's a reflection of our decade-long commitment to being first, moving fast, and giving investors transparent exposure to the crypto ecosystem. You can learn more about this Grayscale CoinDesk Crypto 5 ETF. This is the first crypto fund tracking the 5 most established, largest, and most liquid cryptocurrencies, covering 90% of the market. And we know that XRP is in here. We know that I think Solana's in here. I know Bitcoin, Ethereum. Let me find it real quick. Shoot. Yeah, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. So, anyways, it's even today is a massive day in crypto, even though it was a little bit slow. So, just to rapid fire through some of the stuff that went on this week, I'm going to kind of roll through it here. And if I miss anything, you can check back on the videos as well. But on Monday, we talked about the dam about ready to break. We talked about the Hedera Africa Hackathon, which is open to everybody globally that has $1 million in funding and $1 million in follow-on funding. We talked about XRPL decentralized identity research. We talked about XDC being listed on eToro. We talked about the eToro interview, or I'm sorry, the Curve interview, one of the largest DeFi players in the entire world with XDC Foundation. And a caveat, or not caveat, but just a disclaimer here. Obviously, Genfinity does have a media relationship with XDC Foundation, so make sure you're doing your own due diligence there, but still a really fascinating interview. Curve is one of the biggest institutional players in the entire crypto space and like pretty much the backbone of stablecoin liquidity. This was a really, really good interview, and I definitely recommend checking it out if you like stuff like this. Okay, so we talked about KAIO, compliance first, real world assets, institutional funds moving on chain, and the tokenized version of the stock market. We talked about Archax's pool tokens. I think that was this week. Essentially being able to customize investments by having like one token that has portions of let's say a BlackRock fund and portions of a State Street fund and portions of maybe legal and general counsel stuff, and then portions of HBAR, portions of XRP, and all this stuff tied into just one token. That's how programmable finance is going to be in the future. We also talked about PayPal, and this is absolutely giant, obviously. PayPal expanding crypto services with new peer-to-peer payment features. Again, you can go on to genfinity.io and click any of these and kind of read through so you actually get kind of the ins and outs of what happened here. This is PayPal links, sending and receiving money as easy as sending a text message. This is millions of users, guys. Cross-platform integration. You kind of get the picture here. But all right, we also talked about Native Circle USDC launching on XDC network and CCTP v2, which is cross-chain integration, which is absolutely massive for the XDC ecosystem. I think one of less than 20 ecosystems that have native USDC on there at this point in time. Now, on Thursday, we talked about the SEC approving generic listing standards for ETFs holding spot commodities and digital assets. The theme there is that the ETF floodgates are like quite literally officially opened in the United States. And we even dove deep into the weeds on my video yesterday about the digital assets. And I think there's 10 of them that with the current stipulations that the SEC has put forth for ETF approvals, the cryptocurrencies that would meet that threshold. I know HBAR was in there and a few others. So that's going to be pretty interesting to watch. Also, obviously, Algorand listed on LCX, which is big. This is Europe's leading regulated crypto exchange. MetaMask integrating Hyperliquid. This is just today with a Mask token coming. Major institutions pouring billions of dollars into the Solana ecosystem. And South Korea launching its first won-backed stablecoin and kind of doing that on the Avalanche blockchain. This is BDAX introducing KRW1. It sounds like a pop group. South Korea is pioneering won-backed stablecoin on Avalanche blockchain, partnering with Worry Bank. Worry sounds familiar in some older research content to revolutionize digital payments in the Korean market. You can see it here. South Korea's digital asset landscape takes a major leap forward. Country's first won-backed stablecoin, a leading South Korean digital asset custodian, et cetera, et cetera. I certainly expect to see more of this kind of moving into the future here. Anyways, this has just been a massive week, and this is just this week. I I will say again, on Monday, I have a pretty crazy interview I think we're going to release for the XRP community. And I'm trying to think of what other interviews I have coming up in the near future. I know that there's going to be a Decentralized Recovery Alliance interview. I think that's going to be with the Hedera ecosystem. I think it's going to be with Cardano ecosystem. Constellation, I think, should be on there. Doing a Hedera podcast on Tuesday out of Genfinity, obviously the media relationship within that ecosystem. So make sure you're doing your own due diligence. Don't just take our word for stuff. But yeah, it has been a massive week. These past couple of weeks have been absolutely massive. Ripple and Franklin Templeton, that was just yesterday. If you guys missed that, you can check out the video I did on that. And like, honestly, like we're kind of at this point right now that it is almost, well, not almost, it is impossible to keep up with all of the crypto news. Number one, when you're on a platform like Twitter, your algorithm is going to generate the stuff that you like looking at anyway. So you're going to miss a lot of the other ecosystems that you're not in. I always do recommend trying to stay a little bit agnostic as far as like where you are paying attention to the most stuff, just because there's always cool stuff being built and it doesn't necessarily have to be being built in your own ecosystem. And it's one way to learn about, hey, maybe here's some cool stuff that we could bring into our own network that we care about so much. So from the XRP community standpoint, it's great just looking at XRP community stuff, but it makes sense to look and see what's being built in Solana and what's being built in Hedera and what's being built in, what is Hyperliquid and all this other stuff, because then it gives you, hell, I mean, if you were an entrepreneurial mindset type, it would give you ideas maybe to launch some stuff and change your life as like a builder trying to build some more sustainable stuff and just like make a career switch, whatever. But even from like an investment standpoint, it makes sense to stay on top of trends. Just last week, we were talking about the NASDAQ stuff. The NASDAQ literally investing $50 million into Gemini. The NASDAQ, filing with the SEC for a parallel version of the stock market with tokenized assets. We had Broadridge last Wednesday, I think, talking about like 260, I think, billion dollars in repo trades or something like that on a daily basis. It might have been million, but I know it equivalent out to like, I want to say it was multiple billions and maybe even trillions monthly, like volumes and payments running on blockchain. And just this week, we literally see the SEC. The biggest news this week is by far the SEC actually giving some guidelines, not some guidelines, like actual guidelines, saying that they're not going to review ETF submittals on a case-by-case basis anymore as long as the submittals meet X, Y, and Z criteria. They're going to get through. That is massive. That's not to say, and again, I'll provide a gigantic caveat here. That's not to say that we're going to be in this utility bull run. I actually don't think that this is the utility bull run. I don't even think, end of this year or next year it's going to be. I think that we start looking out to, towards 2028, 2029. Like right now, I think that 2028 and 2029 are when it's really going to set in to people what's happening with like tokenized real world assets and everything. Because right now, yeah, maybe we're at 50, 60 billion or whatever it is. But I fervently believe that we are going to get eventually to the hundreds of trillions of dollars of tokenized assets. So you can imagine that I think that we haven't even basically had one drop in the bucket yet. Anyways, which headline do you think matters most, I guess, a year from now that we've seen over the past couple of weeks? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts below. I really would appreciate likes and subscribes and shares for this content. But this week brought it all, and so did last week. The first United States XRP ETF, the SEC opening up the floodgates for ETF approvals, PayPal's Bitcoin and Ethereum peer-to-peer payments, which we know more crypto is certainly coming down the pipeline. Hedera's millions of dollars of hackathon prizes and builder cultivation. Curve, Stablecoins, backbone of finance, Algorand regulated listings, Solana billion-dollar treasury, South Korea digital yuan, all the cool stuff out of all of these ecosystems. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'm done. I can't do any more videos for this week, but I hope you guys enjoyed this week's content, and I hope I did an okay job at kind of rounding it all up. Go to @Genfinity.io on X and genfinity.io online if you want to read through this content. And yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you. Bye.